It's the biggest drama in college football in years. Lane Kiffin's abrupt departure from Ole Miss to go to LSU after a record-breaking regular season. The man who fought to keep him in Oxford and then told him to pack his bags immediately is with us, and that's Ole Miss AD Keith Carter. This is Hot Mics with Billy Bush, presented by our friends at LAGOLF. And welcome to Hot Mics. You're listening on TuneIn and YouTube. It's been 4 days since head coach Lane Kiffin's dramatic wheels up from Oxford, Mississippi and Ole Miss to Baton Rouge, Louisiana and LSU. The Rebel fans went from adoring the man that the football program, became something else with. He turned it into a juggernaut. Well, that went to loathing the man whom they felt trolled him a little bit, led them on, and then dumped him just when the getting was about to get real good. Lane's boss last week was Keith Carter, athletic director at Ole Miss. Keith is the man who hired Lane in 2019 when he was the coach at Florida Atlantic University. It was a brilliant hire. Lane was in career recovery and maybe more after having been fired from USC, fired from Alabama, not for performance, but because he'd already accepted the Florida job, so his presence was just a distraction. He was not the clear-eyed, faith-rejuvenated Bikram yogi that he is today. Ole Miss hired Lane Kiffin in December of 2019. Lane built the program into what it is today, but Ole Miss rebuilt the man. And then he dropped him like a hot rock after the best regular season in Ole Miss history right before the playoffs are set to begin. This ordeal shined a bright light on a system that kind of floats on its back, all underbelly. We are joined right now by Ole Miss AD, Athletic Director Keith Carter, and gratefully so, as this has to be a very difficult time for you professionally, and I have to assume personally, Keith. Thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to be here, Billy.
I have to assume that you and Lane were friends. You hired the guy in 2019. He was there for 6 years and worked well together. Would you call him, I don't know, maybe not today, but was he a friend for those years?
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I think we had six good years together. I think everyone would have signed up for this run of wins and success and all those things. Unfortunately, the exit was not what we had hoped for, and certainly not maybe handled the way that we had hoped. But a lot of success, a lot of joy with those wins, a lot of great student athletes and other coaches, assistant coaches. When he made his decision, we had to make some decisions as well, and feel like we're set up for a great future as well.
Keith, you're an intuitive man. When do you think Lane's mind was made up? Do you have in your head a date, a specific time when you feel like he was definitely going?
Well, of course, I didn't find out officially until this past Saturday night around 5 p.m. But it kind of started to feel like things might be going the other way kind of the week before, and started catching a few vibes that maybe he might be thinking about leaving. But obviously we had a huge game that week against Mississippi State, and the chancellor and I felt like it made the most sense to let him continue to coach that game. And obviously we were over in the football building and monitoring practice, and so much credit to our team for playing a great game and winning that game against Mississippi State. Our staff holding the guys together. But then that Saturday after, when I found out, and as I mentioned, once he let me know, we had to, go in another direction, obviously. And, we made it clear that, coach was not going to be able to coach in the playoffs, and couldn't be more happy with Pete Golding, who we've named as our new permanent coach. And we're excited to let our guys and this new staff, get after it here in the college football playoff.
Lane said on Sunday that the players, asked you to let him coach through the playoffs. A couple of your offensive linemen, Bryson Sanders first, said, I think everyone that was in that room would disagree. The players did not ask for that. Was Lane bloviating there a little bit, or is it a mixed bag? Some did, some didn't.
Yeah, and I've done a couple of interviews, and I don't want to get into, a lot of just the specifics of that meeting and breach some of that confidentiality. Obviously, our players and our guys are more than welcome to do that. But, I think that's certainly not accurate that he was, the players were begging for him to stay. I think our coaches, our student athletes, realize they do need coaches for this playoff run. And I think that, they were really more interested in what their position coaches and what their opportunity to coach was going to be. And so I think that was more of the questioning from that perspective. But again, we're in a good spot now. We got a great coaching staff that's going to be ready to roll. And again, with Pete Golding, leading the charge, we feel like we can get some momentum and go win a national championship.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, and what if you do, I mean, that's the biggest darn national championship, not just for Ole Miss, but that's international news, sir.
Well, it would be a great story, and here's why. Because the focus is now shifted back to these players, and I think the last 4 or 5 weeks, so much focus has been on what was Coach Kiffin going to do, and we've got some great story. Obviously, we're 11-1, we're number 6 in the country. We've got a quarterback that is just an incredible young man, comes from Division II and is having an incredible year this year. We have a running back that I don't know why he's not getting more recognition in the Heisman conversation. Well over 1,000 yards rushing, 20 touchdowns. We've got just guys up and down this roster that have great stories. And so, to me, to kind of put the focus back on them, that's exactly what Coach Golding has talked about, in the first few days of his tenure as our new head coach. Let's focus on these guys that have done this work on the field. And man, if they could make a run here in this postseason, it truly would be one of the greatest stories of all time.
Keith, you got to like the. I mean, it looks like a pretty good draw. I mean, whichever way it goes. I mean, it looks like you'll play Virginia first at home. Is that the way is that right?
Well, there's a couple of different scenarios. Obviously, we're 6. There were in this poll. There's one more poll that comes out on Sunday, but the 6 seed plays the 11 seed. So, on paper, the matchup would seem to be good. But as we know, when you get into the playoffs, all of these teams are really good. The beauty of it is that we would be hosting at home in Vaught Hemingway Stadium. Oxford, Mississippi would be on fire for that game, and just so much fun there and well deserved. For these guys.
Who's going to get the "Are you ready"? Who's going to get it on that day? The governor?
Most days I don't even know till I see it on the field. Like they keep it such a secret. So I'm not sure we have that plan yet, but that's always exciting for me as even the AD that I don't know until I see it when it actually happens in real time.
It might be logistically impossible, but I think head coach Pete Golding might be a hell of an option for that moment.
Yeah, we were able to introduce Pete at a men's basketball game last night, and the crowd went crazy. We brought the team out on the floor as well, and just well received. I think it's really galvanized not only the football building and the players and the staff, but our fan base is super excited to see what these next few weeks can bring.
Some people say, well, look, everybody in college football now, the athletes, the coaches, they're all one-year mercenaries. They come in, they do their thing, they represent the school, but, how many of them stay, who knows? Can you articulate for people who may not be so inside as to why it's not good for Coach Kiffin to take the new job and also coach his way through the playoffs? And also, did you make that a no-go from the start with him?
Yeah, we were pretty clear, for a few weeks that if Coach, was going to take another job, that there would not be an opportunity to coach this team in the playoff. And so, I think that's something that was kind of a non-negotiable with us. And again, there's some nuance to that. We want to put the players in the best possible, opportunity to win these games. But when you leave, not only for another college team, but a rival, that's on our schedule next year, that we play in Oxford, Mississippi next year. It's time if you take that job, it's time to go ahead and go take that job, And so, but back to your original point, I agree that things have certainly changed a lot with the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness and rev share. But I do truly believe, Billy, that these young men and their young women on our women's teams, they do care, and they are still competing at a high level. They still want to get an education. There's still a lot of great things about college and college athletics that haven't changed. And so, again, I just love the fact that we're able to kind of put the focus back on the players and really focus on what matters, and that's going and finishing this thing the way we need to.
There's no question. I mean, if you look at, orientation week when you're a freshman going to college, in 5 days, you're best friends with some people and they end up being friends for life. So over a football season, there's no question that a character and a team, comes together, and there's tremendous passion. But for Ole Miss fans, I think they understand, right, because of the way the college football landscape is, that a coach could leave before the end of the season, and this can happen. Is the issue that Oxford is really upset. Ole Miss Nation is upset. I can feel it because of the way maybe it went down, and a lot of people thinking there was social media posts and things that kind of led the fans to believe that this was a real relationship, and that there was nostalgia and love for the town, and there was longevity there. Is that naive, or is that right for them to feel that?
Well, I do think the way the schedule and the calendar is set up now, it does put some of these coaches in tough positions with timing. If they were to going to take a new job, I just think this one's really unprecedented because we're the sixth ranked team in the country. Like,
Yeah.
it's not like he's going from a doormat to some program that's elevated at a really different level. We look at LSU as a lateral move, and maybe we're even in a better position than they are.
Well,
Right
you're in
now.
a better position this season. They're
We
not
are
in the conversation.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so, for someone that wants to, take another job to pursue national championships, when literally, in 18 days from now, you're going to have an opportunity to chase a national championship right here in Oxford. I think that's why people just don't understand. And so, but you know what? He made that decision. We'll respect that decision. We made some decisions that we feel good about, and certainly feel good about Pete Golding, leading this team and this program moving forward. And we're going to go win a natty. That's the plan.
Okay, here's something that every single Ole Miss fan wants you to answer a particular way, but you're the big cheese here, but I got to ask it. Did Pete Golding say to Lane Kiffin on that Sunday morning, "Get out of here, this isn't your office anymore"?
I have not confirmed that. I've heard that too. I've read that too. I have not confirmed that.
You haven't asked Pete?
I have not asked Pete. We've been so busy putting this staff together. Today is National Signing Day for high school recruiting. Yeah. So, I mean, Pete has just been, bogged down and just doing the stuff we need to do to keep this program rolling. So maybe there will be an opportunity for me to ask that question at some point.
Yell it down the hallway right now. I'm just kidding you, but I think I don't think it's so bad for fans to believe it that way, whether it happened or not, because it is time to rally around Pete Golding. What a guy! He's got Joe Judge, my old Giants coach, is there. Are you confident that all the staff minus Lane and Chris Kiffin are going to be through the ride through the playoffs?
Well, we will have most of the staff. There's still, obviously, Charlie Weiss is going to come back and call plays for us. You mentioned Joe Judge, who's a very important piece of the offense as well. Our offensive line coach, John Garrison, is going to be there. So we have some Kevin Smith, our running backs coach, is going to be there. We have some very important pieces. We may have to plug a couple of holes, but I know Pete's got a great plan for that. We've got some other staff members, new staff members that are going to come into place here that will be announced in the coming days. So I feel like we have a great plan. I think we were able to communicate that to the CFP committee, and they feel like we have a great plan for the staff. And obviously, with the ranking at 6, they believe that's something that can happen, and they feel good about that. So we're not worried about the staff. We feel like we're in a good spot, and most importantly, our players, they are really ready to go.
Yeah, you mentioned it. It is National Signing Day, so this is where they go after high school players. How's that going for Ole Miss? You feel pretty good about it?
I do, and to
And
be
does this
honest,
a
Billy,
situation affect it in any way? I mean, because some people might say, "Oh, well, there's instability," or they say, "Hell, man, look at this side, look at this team. They're number 6. They're badass. I'd like to go there."
yeah, I think we're getting more of that. I was just actually over in near where Pete's office is, and we were talking with some of the recruiting guys. We feel really strong about the guys we have signed today, and that we're going to sign before the end of the day. And then obviously, you've got the transfer portal season that will open in early January, and we all know that that's a huge part of building a roster as well. So trying to find that balance of which high school kids do you want to take. And then obviously, moving to the portal in January. But, we have proof of concept here that we can put rosters together that can be ranked 6th in the country. And we don't have any plan on changing that.
Talking to Keith Carter, athletic director of Ole Miss, and they are number 6, and they are going to the playoffs, and they're going to play at home in game 1. It is going to be wild in the Grove. My wife my ex-wife now, but one of my best buddies is a tri-delt at Ole Miss, and we took our kids when they were little. They got to go to the Grove, and if you've never been to the Grove for a football game, I'm telling you, it is the greatest experience. Make sure that every one of these kids that's going to be on site, they need to have seen the Grove, not just know about Ole Miss as a great school. When you see the Grove, I don't know how you go anywhere else, frankly.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, and you know this, Billy, having been there, you can't explain it until you see it, until you experience it. And this will be a first as well. The first time that the Grove has ever been full of tents and tailgaters in December. So it's going to be awesome. Right around Christmas time, and we're just really, really excited about that. But what's been really cool, Billy, more than anything, is we've always kind of won that party out there. The Grove has always been awesome,
Oh yeah,
and it still is. But now
undefeated.
it's really fun to take that into the stadium and win the game too. So that combination is what's made this really special.
Yeah, I like what you're doing. You have got great support from Ole Miss fans, and I assume the university, because you did everything you could do, and you made the decision you had to make. Look, shit, Nick Saban made the same decision. He let Lane Kiffin coach one game before they released him, and then it became a distraction, and he figured it out while it was in practice. This is not practical to have him here while he's going somewhere else. So let's not even get to first game, which will be at home. Let's move on right away. You have great support there. LSU seems to me to be a little more corporate, a little more win and win now, or you're out. Could Lane Kiffin have coached, 10 more years? Would there have been that loyalty if I would think there's a little more leeway at Ole Miss than there is LSU, and I wonder why that is.
Well, we'll never know that now. We'll never know that. And you know what? I would prefer not to really even think about those scenarios. I want to talk about Pete Golding. I want to talk about this team. I want to talk about Pete Golden being here for another 10 or 12 or 20 years and building a legacy here and building just a dynasty here. Our expectations have grown. I think there was a time when, 7-8 wins would have been good, but now with the playoffs and our people tasting this and our players tasting this, our administration tasting this, this is something we're going to want every year. And so I feel like there's high expectations, but we're realistic too. I feel like we have our chancellor and the way he leads. Hopefully myself, we're very aligned. We're aligned with Coach Golding, and we all have the same vision and the same goal. So we're excited about that. And man, we're going to get this thing kicked off here in about 18 days.
Everyone's talking about college football and so Lane goes through his thing, but everyone's talking about college football and sort of that it needs to be fixed. I mean, you've got this crazy idea that a coach can't go through all the way if he's going to take a new job. How in the world are you confident, and what role can you play in the idea that the season ends like it does in the NFL entirely, everything's done before you have conversations and move on to another place? That has to happen. It can't be a difficult fix. So how long will this take in your estimation?
I honestly think and it's unfortunate that Ole Miss may be kind of the case study for this, for this solution. But I could see some change potentially even in the offseason.
Yeah.
This is something that we are starting to look more like pro sports, and I think we could take some cues from the way they do things. I mean, there should be a window, after the season, after the championship game, where you can do these things and I think that there's a template there. It may not look exactly like that, but certainly some things we can draw upon.
When I think of, college football, especially the SEC, which is supercharged, I always think of like that great television series, Friday Night Lights. And I think of the athletic director, which in this situation would be you in that role. And then I think of remember that father who owned the car dealership.
Buddy Garrity.
Yeah.
Buddy Garrity.
Buddy
the
Garrity.
The best character ever in a series. Buddy Garrity. Fantastic.
Oh, I think of you sitting in that. I think of, and you don't have, I mean, I'm sure you have a great opportunity, you have an incredible job, but I think of your phone ringing and your secretary or your assistant says, Keith, it's Buddy Garrity. And you go, oh, shit. I mean, it's like high
I just
end.
left for lunch. Tell him I just left for lunch. I'll call him back later.
Ole Miss has a pretty good donor class. LSU has the owner of Raising Cane's. This guy, Todd Graves, is worth $20 billion alone. The Tiger Athletic Fund is a giant, big money machine. Is one of the fixes, that there's some type of NIL cap, there's some type of salary cap that has to go into college football because these guys are paid and they are, basically professional athletes.
Yeah, and we're working toward that. Now you've got the revenue share that is capped at $20.5 million per year that the athletic department can pay, and then anything above that, from an NIL perspective, technically has to go through a clearinghouse with a group from Deloitte called NIL Go and the CSC, College Sports Commission. So I think there's some steps being taken to try to rein in kind of the wild, wild west that we've all been dealing with in that space for the past few years. But yeah, again, I think just like you're talking about when coaches can be talked to and how all that works in the pro model, I think there's some things that we can take from the pro model on I don't know if you call it a salary cap or whatever, but there's certainly some things we can do there to try to rein that in a little bit and make it a little more black and white.
Ole Miss Athletic Director Keith Carter is with us right now. Yeah, we're talking the idea that one school can poach the coach of another school before the season is over is nuts. Where a salary cap definitely would make sense, and the timing of the schedule, moved back would make sense. Lane Kiffin said it himself. He said contracted employees without contracts. When he talked to the players, they can get out whenever they want. And how is it not being seen that unless there are changes or rules around caps and contracts, how is every elite college player not at the end of their season entering into the portal? Greg Sankey, the chairman of the SEC, said congressional action is then the only way to provide a national uniform standard for name, image, and likeness activity and to draw the lines around boundaries that do not become simply pay for play. Do you think this is a federal government involved, United States Congress type of thing, or can this be resolved with by the way, your chancellor's on the board of governors for the NCAA. He's going to be intimately involved, a voting member.
Yeah, no doubt. And he's done a great job there representing not only Ole Miss, but just, good ideas across the country. The more I've thought about this, there's really kind of two ways to solve it. And that's whether you do go more of the pro model with the collective bargaining model, and the players have some type of representation that comes to the table and we come up to an agreement like you do in pro sports, or it's going to have to be a congressional, it's going to have to be a bill, something that comes through that protects a lot of the things. There's so many lawsuits that are happening right now, right? Right now, if you don't get the answer you want, then you just sue. And it's not sustainable, I don't think. So to me, those are the two pathways. You either go collectively bargain, a deal and move forward, or you have to get some help from Congress and, that kind of supersedes a lot of these state laws that are all different. We're all trying to outdo each other, those type of things. So I wouldn't be shocked if we don't see one of those two pathways happen here in the next, few years.
What kind of conversations have you had when this thing all went down and you cut ties right away, and you named Pete Golding, head coach right away. Swift action, all that. What your phone probably ringing off the hook. What kind of people did you talk to? Did you hear from my friend Eli Manning? I wonder.
I did. I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
Eli, we were texting, and man, what a great guy. All the Mannings, they're the best.
He had a
I
funny
have
one. He had a funny one. Lane Kiffin's press conference at LSU. He said, someone tried to run me off the road as I was heading to the airport. And Eli retweets and says, "Oops."
Yeah, yeah. Eli's pretty witty with his social media as well.
Yeah.
So he's pretty good. I had when I got to my house Sunday evening about 7 o'clock. I've been at the office basically since Saturday morning around 7 all day to about 3. Anyway, long time. And I had almost 500 text messages. Just a lot of people. Really excited about us holding the line, I guess, if you will. With Coach Kiffin and saying, hey, if you're going to go somewhere else, you need to go somewhere else. And then obviously following that up with Coach Golding and just, how much excitement that's brought and galvanization that's brought to our team, our building, our football building, and our fans. And so it was awesome to have that encouragement. And I think you hit on something, earlier. Our fan base, our alignment with leadership here, everybody just is pulling the rope in the same direction. And I think that's what's allowing us to have this success and what's going to allow us to keep pushing even to, higher levels.
Sometimes you need a motivating factor. I can't think of a more motivating a factor than, hey, somebody just knocked us down. What the hell are we going to do? Let's get up. They're playing for a lot now.
Yeah, this will be a motivated group. There's no doubt about that. Again, obviously for the next, 3 to 6 weeks, however long we're in this thing, hopefully 6 weeks to the very end. But it's going to be a very motivated group. It's going to be a motivated group of coaches, and our fan base. They're ready. They've been waiting for this playoff, opportunity for a long, long time, and I can't imagine just the intensity that this environment's going to have, when we pack Vaught-Hemingway Stadium here in about 3 weeks.
I love that. Keith Carter's the AD of Ole Miss. One thing Coach Kiffin mentioned is, I have no idea what the money was. I don't know the contract, how much they're paying me. It's about the players. Nobody believes that. I'm not asking you to comment on that. But I would imagine when it gets to like 10 million, 11 million, whatever, everybody was sort of in there. Was Ole Miss in there? Was the money kind of the same?
We weren't gonna. It wasn't going to be because of compensation. It wasn't going to be because of NIL for the players. I think you made a comment about that, but Ole Miss is ready to compete and win, and that's obviously on the field, but that's also with resources. It's also with fan and donor backing and university alignment. Like we're there with anybody in the country. Now we may not have the biggest budget of some of these other schools, but we find ways to do things. We're creative. We're first movers in a lot of spaces, as you've seen in the NIL world. I think we've been really good there, really efficient there. And so, again, we've tasted this. We don't want to go backwards. We want to remain consistent, and we know that takes resources. Our people are stepping up, and so I don't think LSU was offered anything we couldn't offer, and I feel pretty confident about that.
Not to compare them, but I hosted a Miss Universe pageant or two for NBC back in the day, and the entire government of Colombia is involved in their Miss Colombia. You get down to South America, it's incredible. I would think, right, I know that the governor of Louisiana is very involved in LSU football. It's the same, I would assume, in Mississippi, that the chancellor is as involved as the athletic director and the coach, and possibly the governor of the state too. It's that big.
Well, football in the South is huge, obviously. And I'll say this, Governor Reeves, for us, he's very supportive. He comes to games from time to time. Obviously, he wants us to win, and in Mississippi State and others, he's for our state. But he is not making decisions. He is not telling us what to do, and we appreciate that. And he's got a very tough job to do. Obviously, but we do. We have a great relationship with our our government relations folks here on campus who work with our local, politicians, our state politicians. We love Governor Reeves, but not sure kind of what happened down in LSU with some of those statements. Not sure that would be great for our state.
Gotcha. The Lane Kiffin left, but maybe not the most important Kiffin, because Juice Kiffin is still there in Oxford, right? I mean, I looked at this is Juice right here, big, big star that everybody thought, I think most fans thought that was Lane's dog. Tiger Vibes on Instagram, an LSU thing. So one of the best things about Lane Kiffin is that we get Juice Kiffin too. You don't, right? Isn't Juice still in Oxford?
Well, Juice, I really am probably not qualified to comment on this, honestly, but there was some scuttlebutt that Juice had been left behind. I saw something this morning where I think Juice's Twitter handle tweeted something about maybe going to Baton Rouge. So it's up in the air on what that's going to look like. We love Juice here in Oxford, obviously.
Yeah.
So if Juice wanted to stay, we would be down for that.
What you got to pay Juice in top quality beef, and
there you go.
Even better. Look, I got to imagine. What have you been into the locker room? Have you seen the team? Can you paint a picture of what's going on with this football team right now?
Yeah, I've actually spent a lot of time with the team, really from Sunday morning until today, and they're ready. I mean, they are really, really ready. They're getting a little downtime now because obviously we don't play until either the 19th or 20th. They're gonna be back on the grass. I think on Monday is what Pete told me, starting practice. Then they'll have a 2-week run up into the game. But they're getting their bodies right, getting their minds right, a lot of treatment, and healing up on some nicks and bruises and different things from the season. But we will absolutely be ready to roll. And I would be shocked. I would be shocked if we don't play really well in that game.
Isn't it great that you don't have to play in the SEC championship game? You can rest in like Alabama, who's ranked higher than you. They're not as well ranked. They're in the championship game. They have to go do that. You guys can get focused. I think it's kind of a relief. I know it's an honor, but
Yeah, it's a tricky one because Ole Miss has never played in the SEC championship game, and so and we definitely want to check that box at some point. We want to win an SEC championship, but it is a little bit of a dilemma when you're playing in that game, and then the loser of that game has to turn around and play right away. And so it's a little bit of a dilemma if you're trying to win a national championship. But we certainly respect the SEC championship game.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of history there. Ole Miss would love to to go on that wall as an SEC champion at some point for sure.
Keith Carter, my final question for you is, this has to have been a very trying time, I would imagine. You got great family, you got great staff, you got a great team, an unbelievable school. God, I've seen it, I've felt it. The energy is incredible. What's the takeaway here? There's life. I used to have a friend who was a manager for Sly Stallone, and he said, life's a shit sandwich, Bushy. Eat it or starve. You just never know what's going to happen, but you got to be. What's the lesson that you kind of take out of all of this?
For me, Billy, it's about you got to stick with your core values. You got to stick with what you believe in. And I think this was hard. I'm not going to lie. The last 5 or 6 weeks was really, really trying. The last, 72 hours, 96 hours, whatever that looks like, was really, really hard. But at the end of the day, you make decisions based on what is best for this institution and our student athletes. And, Sunday night when I finally, laid down and got the first good night of sleep that I've had in a long time, I slept well, because I feel like we did that. I feel like the chancellor, myself, all the leadership here, we did what was best for our team and our program, and we're going to continue to do that. And so, and the biggest thing here's my life motto: it's never as good as it seems. It's never as bad as it seems. Right? I mean,
yeah.
Things are going to be what they are. Again, hold true to those core values. Make decisions that you believe in, and guess what? We came out on the other side of this thing in a really, really good spot.
You probably don't have time to teach a Stoic philosophy class, at the university while being the AD, but that's basically Stoic philosophy right there, and it's pretty darn good. Don't ride the highs so high that you like, oh my God, because then you're just gonna eventually you're coming down. So if you can
Yep.
just find that middle somewhere and just handle things as they go, which you have done an excellent job of. And I got one of my great buddies down there, John Green. I know you might know
Yeah.
John. He said to me, I said, tell me about Keith Carter. He said, stand up guy, great American.
That's awesome. That's about as good as it gets right there,
Hey,
right? So
man. Yeah, listen, I got to say, good luck to the Ole Miss Rebels through the playoffs. I think you'll probably, in this moment, your fan base has grown. People that had got a taste. I think there's more eyeballs on Ole Miss than ever. So think about that as part of the positives.
awesome. Hey, if you want to come to the playoff game, let us know.
I
We'd love
will.
to have you.
You got a great assistant there, assistant AD, and Denson Hollis, who's a wonderful, great guy, and sort of helped me get to you, and I appreciate it. And hey, man, are you ready? Right? Hell yeah. Let's go.
We're ready. We're ready. Thank you, Billy.
And Keith, thank you so much. What a good guy, man. By all accounts, handled things very well down there at Ole Miss. Not an easy situation, but definitely well done. I will say this. A reliable source in Oxford told me that Juice Kiffin, the dog, was hunting yesterday, living his best life down there in Oxford. I don't think going anywhere. Juice is not going to Baton Rouge. That's going to be my call. Not only that, Juice will be on the sidelines for Ole Miss' first playoff game against the 11th seed. And too bad Juice can't talk. Like Mr. Red, the horse, if Juice could talk, I believe they'd give him the microphone for, are you ready? Hell yeah. He'd do the hotty-toddy chant. The other one is like, why not Keith Carter? Everyone supports Keith. He'd be a great guy to do the hottie chant. Be really nice. All right, let's talk about Lane Kiffin doesn't care about money, apparently. I'll tell you this, I do. And finally, I won some on Monday Night Football with PrizePicks, the easiest app if you want to make a little dough when the game is on. I got me a 3-pick power play. Check this out. Drake May, I said, would throw for more than 245.5 yards. I was right. He threw for 282. Jackson Dart, I said less than 209.5. He threw for 139. I mean, he also got hit so hard he almost went into the stands. He's got to learn how to slide. Travion Henderson, running back for the Pats, I said 62.5 yards. He's going to get more than that. He got 67. So there you go, 3-pick power play. I won $120. How about that? Now, PrizePicks will give you $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you get $50 in lineups. So use the promo code HOTMICS when you sign up today. That's it for us. I want to thank Keith Carter again, the AD at Ole Miss. And boy, now it's just time to look forward. I appreciate his time. That's it for us. Hot Mics today brought to you by LAGOLF. We'll see you next time.